So now we're in China. So we're watching another video from History Matters, and this video is called "Why Didn't Mao?" I always pronounce it Mao Zedong. Apologies, but like about my pronunciation. I know it's not good. I know none of my pronunciation in any videos I do is good, no matter what part of the world we're in. But maybe except like Western Europe. But like, point is, why didn't Mao conquer Taiwan? Now we did kind of learn about the Chinese Revolution back in high school, though to be honest, that was many years ago, and I don't think we even gave it as much focus as we did with the rest of World War II or after, because, you know, we mainly focus on the American side of World War II, and then immediately kind of jump into the Cold War, so we did kind of touch on China, but, like, not enough, and that was many years ago. Yeah, so, like, I wish I could say why. I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I don't want to say it, because I don't want to get something completely wrong like this. But it is very topical, considering with the, you know, you hear in the news about Taiwan and China. I won't go too deep into it, because I don't like talking too much about current events, but this is kind of topical. So we should probably get to it, huh? Let's find out why, you know, China, or like Mao Zedong, conquer Taiwan, you know?
In 1949, Mao Zedong proclaimed the creation of the People's Republic of China. Whilst he was doing this, the Chinese Civil War was still raging on, with the Kuomintang opposition fleeing to the island of Taiwan. And by 1951, all of mainland China and the island of Hainan was under the control of the Chinese Communist Party. Which raises the obvious question, why didn't Mao conquer Taiwan? Well, the first reason was that Mao still needed to consolidate the Communist Party's hold on mainland China. Now, the Communist Armed Forces, the People's Liberation Army, was about 3 times the size of the Kuomintang military, but numbers aren't everything. The PLA had a minuscule air force, whereas the Kuomintang had a modern one made up of mostly American fighters and bombers. Also, the PLA didn't have a navy, whereas the overwhelming majority of China's old ships had been taken to Taiwan. Mao stationed troops along the coastline and
That is interesting. I did not know that. So yeah, obviously I do know of you know, China is just a really large population. You know, it is known for its large population. Also in like wars, you know, often hearing about the high death toll in like Chinese wars. And yeah, like I always thought like, yeah, definitely, like, Mao should have, like, numerical superiority, but again, that's not everything in war, and I'm glad he explained this, like, you know, Taiwan having aircrafts and ships already, that's pretty big, and I guess since they're an island, that's something to defend themselves with, right, like, kind of defending yourself, so that's interesting. I did not know that.
Prepared for an invasion of the remaining Kuomintang positions, the closest of which were the Quemoy Islands. When the go-ahead was given, the invasion was, to put it mildly, a disaster. This setback wasn't enough to deter Mao though, and he ordered plans for the final conquest of Taiwan to be drafted. The plan was to buy as many transportation vessels as possible and simply overwhelm the island with sheer numbers. This plan was scrapped because frankly it was a stupid one, and also Mao was concerned that the USA would intervene if he invaded. Which he was right about, because the United States placed its fleet between China and Taiwan and made it clear.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, definitely the American involvement more is something I hadn't fully heard. Again, we didn't really touch on this. We were mainly covering World War II from the American perspective, and then the Cold War. You know, I guess it makes sense, because here in America we kind of focus mainly on just the American thing, main parts of those two conflicts, but yeah, I do find it interesting to see, you know, just how much America put its foot down when trying to defend Taiwan.
To Mao that any invasion would also mean war with them. However, by this point Mao had another issue to deal with, since the Korean War had just begun next door. This saw direct fighting between Chinese and American forces, and importantly, saw US President Harry Truman commit to defend non-communist regimes in the area, including Chiang Kai-shek's Kuomintang government in Taiwan. In 1953, a ceasefire ended the fighting on the Korean peninsula, and so Mao could turn his attention back to Taiwan. And boy did he, because the next year he ordered the shelling of the Quemoy Islands, to which the Taiwanese government responded tit for tat. Things began to escalate, and President Truman did three things. First of all, he sent reinforcements to Taiwan. Second, he and Congress passed legislation committing the US to defend Taiwan in the event of invasion. And third, he threatened to nuke China. This worked, and Mao, somewhat opposed to being nuked, ordered his forces to desist. And
Yeah, okay. I like hearing about just how heavily the US put its foot down with, which makes sense, because, like, I guess, like, you know, during the Cold War era, all these proxy wars, like, he mentioned the Korean War, which was, you know, you hear about the proxy wars between America and the USSR, you know, communism and capitalism and all that. And I guess, like, the idea, you know, of just trying to stop the spread of communism was kind of a thing with America. So it does now. Now that he explained it, it does make sense as to why America's getting so heavily involved, you know, in trying to, like, curb the communist side of things.
And this threat convinced Mao of one thing: that China needed its own nuclear weapons if it was ever going to stand up to the United States or ever hope to assert itself over Taiwan. However, before these nuclear weapons were finished, Mao ordered the shelling of the islands again, because at this point, why not? It was something to do, I guess. This time the air forces got involved and hundreds of people died, and President Eisenhower threatened to invade the mainland if things didn't calm down, which they promptly did. Now, this was the last time that China attempted to forcibly capture territory from Chiang Kai-shek. When Mao died in 1976, his successor preferred a policy of peaceful reunification. In the end, Mao didn't conquer Taiwan for one very simple reason: he couldn't. The US Navy sat between China and Taiwan, and it was by far the most powerful in the world. And when Mao tried to use force, a nuclear retaliation by the United States was an ever-present threat. Not to mention that any attempt by Mao to take the island would have been costly in lives and money, which, given the fact he was trying to build a revolutionary government, was something that he needed more than Taiwan. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Okay, that was super interesting. So many things I didn't know, but, like, I'm glad he explained it, and it makes sense to me. So yeah, many factors are there, like from political, economical, and just foreign, like the US mainly, just being like, no, we're not letting you, and just threatening straight up war at times, like, alright, that's cool.